Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of our new series, a video series we'll be doing every week called the Weekly SEO Rewind. I'm Loren Baker from Search Engine Journal, and with me I have Vahan Petrosyan.
Thank you, Loren. I'm Vahan Petrosyan, Director of Technology at Search Engine Journal. And we have got a packed episode today with some developments in the SEO world that happened during the recent week.
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy week. So let's go ahead and dive in, Vahan. What's to the trending news that we've had in this SEO community over the past week? What really came up first on your end that you'd like to talk about today?
First, I think we should discuss the massive analysis out there examining 546,000 AI overviews by Kevin Indig, which he's publishing already a second week. So there were two chapters, and the last one went live this week.
Yeah, this has been a pretty eye-opening analysis. AI overviews are definitely reshaping the way this search works, right? And it's been a while. It's taken a while for Google to kind of get this quote unquote right by their standards. I'm not sure if users or SEOs really enjoy AI overviews, but we're seeing them more and more for informational queries and their growth across the board. One of the most interesting things about this study is we saw how sources like YouTube and LinkedIn are getting more visibility in these overviews, along with a fairly dramatic decline or just like lack of inclusion through Reddit and Quora, which is I found really interesting because, as you know, and as most of you know out there, we've seen a sharp increase in visibility around Reddit, Quora, and other forums over the past year within Google results. But there's definitely an absence with what we're seeing in the AI overview. And I think a lot of that shift has to do with what's considered being a source versus what's considered being a conversation around a topic. If you're sourcing directly something from, let's look at what we saw an increase in here. We saw an increase in YouTube, Wikipedia, government-oriented sites, Google, and then in the medical space, specifically Healthline, WebMD, Mayo Clinic, all cited, right? And for the most part, all of these different types of sites do have some sort of original, well-researched authority on the subject matter that they're publishing information about. But then when you look into like the top ranking domains and classic search results, Reddit and Quora are still at the top. It's very interesting to me, and it makes total sense for Google to leave these conversations out of AI overviews. First part, because they're just messengers, right? A lot of the time a thread in Reddit doesn't necessarily even link to the source of what they're talking about. Same with Quora. Whereas, I think users at the end of the day, and especially what Google wants to deliver, is really getting to the source of the conversation. Not just necessarily introducing a conversation, but putting together research articles, research sources, and citations. And I think this is something that we can really learn from an overall publishing perspective. If you're putting out good content and you're seeing that your site is ranking or being shown in AI overviews, making sure that you're continuously positioning yourself as the source of that content, putting together proprietary data and studies, and then also making sure that the person publishing that content is an expert in their field are incredibly important. It's something that Healthline and WebMD do very well, and I think we can all learn a lot from them. What are your thoughts, Vahan, on the study?
Yeah, it's a great study, provides a lot of insights, and it, as we had mentioned, it was quite surprising to not see Reddit and Quora cited in the AI overviews as often as we would expect, because like right now, as you search in the Google, almost every first result is Reddit, right?
Yeah, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, do you think we're going to see changes over time with Reddit and Quora becoming less important in the organic results, or is this Do you think this is Google showing the facts and then showing the conversation around the facts within the results?
I think we will see a movement, but at this stage, I can't predict anything. It's so unpredictable because when AI overviews were launched initially, we were used to find like a lot of outdated and even like AI generated content ranking there, right? But the quality so far has changed drastically. Right now, we see that AI overviews are kind of aligned pretty much with the first page results. And there has been also study by Similar Web that they observe that AI overviews now pretty much more in uh, alignment with the first page results, right?
Right.
But alongside with all of these developments, there is something concerning, and as AI overviews are showing up for branded keywords sometimes,
Exactly.
as reported by Victor Penn on X. When you search HubSpot, for example, you see AI overviews taking over the HubSpot first result, right?
Yes, exactly. And that does raise a lot of ethical questions, right? Because it feels like Google is trying to take over ownership of that branded traffic that companies have really worked hard to build, right? Companies do their branding, they're running advertising campaigns, whatever it is, they're building that trust and they're building that authority. And now, when someone is searching Google for that brand, they're not necessarily finding that brand first. They're finding information about that brand that Google is spitting out in the AI overviews, which can lead to less branded traffic, which is definitely a concern on that end. And possibly rerouting that traffic to different publishers, different sources, different groups of information, and things like that. It really feels that, to an extent, Google is trying to keep this traffic within their walled garden, as opposed to sending that traffic directly to the site, which is something that has always been a concern with unbranded, right? We have plenty of things to compete against when it comes to organic search. First of all, knowledge panels, local packs, sponsored listings, whatever it may be, Google Shopping, et cetera, et cetera. But now they're adding branded AI overviews to the mix, which adds like an additional challenge, but at the same time, possibly an additional opportunity. So if you are seeing a branded overview, if you're searching for your brand, go to Google right now, search for your company name. If you're seeing an AI overview for that, take a look and see what Google is serving in that AI overview. Are they serving third parties as resources? Are they serving reviews as resources? Things like that. Are there any other concerns you see with AI overviews on any concerns you see with AI overviews on branded keywords, Vahan?
Speaking of concerns, I think for most, like it's more of like a bug they are gonna fix, in my opinion, because you can't like just take over the brand name and display your own like interpretation. What is that brand, right? And speaking of concerns, another issue came up that there are full of spam coming from the LinkedIn, as reported by Mark Williams Cook on X. There are a lot of spam articles ranking for over 96,000 keywords on loans, right? And as reported, these are mostly AI generated articles with affiliate links and posted by fake accounts. This is not the first time that Google is full of spam in the search results. And back in December of 2023, there was another massive spam attack. May you remember?
Yes, exactly. Lily Ray reported a lot of this, but spam domains that were registered within 24 to 48 hours were ranking for hundreds of thousands of terms, which were exploiting loopholes in Google's local search algorithm. really targeting low competition, long tail keywords. So they took advantage of the fact that these were new domains that could rank quickly before Google's algorithm could fully access or assess their quality and relevance. Now, this is pretty interesting because this is very different than what we're seeing with the LinkedIn spam. And the LinkedIn spam kind of reminds me of the whole site reputation abuse update, right? But it's a little bit different. LinkedIn gives users the ability to upload content, and this is an example of users taking that ability that an authority site gives them and completely abusing it. The interesting thing is that it's taking Google so long to pick up on this as it happens. And I wanted to get your thoughts on why Google is having such a hard time identifying mass volumes of AI content instantly coming from something like LinkedIn versus, say, PBN or a network of sites that were generated utilizing mass content. What do you really think the difference is there?
I think there are a lot of like legitimate content producers on LinkedIn, and if they like penalize, for example, LinkedIn as a domain, they are gonna also wipe out from the search results a lot of like worthy results, right? And given that fact, AI like spam techniques become like evolve and like become more sophisticated,
Yeah.
especially as AI is developing and becoming even more smarter. And in that light, Google has just like yesterday updated their reputation abuse policies.
Right.
And can you please break down what is new in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the reputation abuse policies, one of the biggest things is, well, first of all, they made several updates to the documentation to make it clearer and more concise, right? But one of the biggest changes that we've seen is they've added a new definition of site reputation abuse. Previously, Google mentioned that little or no first-party oversight led to abuse and was considered abuse, but didn't really clarify what that meant. Now they've clarified what close oversight and involvement means. For example, through staff directly employed by the site or freelancers working for them, which is quite interesting. So it sounds like that if your site previously was, say, leasing out a subfolder or subdomain to a third party, and that third party was utilizing that to redistribute content primarily, that can be seen as site reputation abuse, right? Hey,
Yeah.
here's this subfolder. Let me give this to this company, or let me name this subdomain over. That company is basically, with little policing done by the owner of the site, pumping out things like coupon codes, all using the same content over and over again, or pumping out real estate listings, or pumping out, especially in the UK, gambling landing pages, right? Google's update to the site reputation abuse policies now sounds like if you have someone on staff that's reviewing that content, or you're bringing on a freelance writer to review that content and put together new content or comment on that, that may not necessarily be seen as reputation abuse. Basically, what this means to me is that, okay, so we did this years ago at SEJ, right? Maybe 15 years ago. There was one point where almost anyone was able to upload content to the site without it necessarily being reviewed by an editor. A lot of that content over time we lost rankings. It led to issues, things like that, because of, opinions or outbound links or whatever it may be. It was basically that lack of self-policing was being taken advantage of. Fast forward now, it's very similar. If I'm renting out or leasing out or letting a third party publish on my site, I am responsible for that content, right? Therefore, I need to make sure that content is original, it's authority-driven content, and it's reviewed by somebody from my editorial team, as opposed to just spitting out the same stuff over and over and over again. And one thing that we noticed with a lot of these coupon sites these coupon sections that were, say, part of a newspaper site or part of a magazine site or a larger authority, is a lot of them had the same thing over and over again. It was just a question of ranking off of that authority. So it sounds like to me, if you have somebody on your team that's an expert reviewing that content and making sure that content gets a stamp of approval before publishing, then that can actually save you throughout this update. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, true. By the way, regarding SEJ in the past was doing that, I can assure that all of that content was pruned, no indexed, removed. So no worries going forward that we are gonna get any sort of like kind of penalties. So, but let's also be honest, like man, it's not only about Google and Google search. It's also about your brand reputation, right? If you
Right.
let everyone dump a content on your website, anything they want, it's also like affecting your brand reputation. And in that light, I would like to also mention that producing sponsored promotional articles, which is reviewed by editorial, is still totally fine, and publishers shouldn't avoid doing sponsored posts, right? Because those are reviewed by their staff members before going out, fact checked, quality checked, right? And the only thing you need to make sure is to mark the links in such articles as with the rel attribute equal to sponsor. So Google understand that this is a promotional material, right?
Yeah, exactly. The more transparent you can be about working with third parties and working with sponsors, especially if you are a publisher, the better with Google. What you don't want to do is try to trick Google and say, hey, this is a normal post, and then either link with affiliate links or link with links that have UTM parameters or some kind of tracking oriented. And then if those links are being placed in that piece, or maybe the order of the listicle is being changed because of some kind of monetary system, you want to be sure that you are letting Google know that. One thing that we saw with some of the core updates over this summer is that a lot of sponsored listicles on some key health-oriented sites, some major publishers were actually replaced from the results with more natural, organic, informational, resourceful content from those same publishers. It's almost like it was swapped. So, for example, and this is just an example, if someone's searching Google for, vitamin C supplements, right? There may have been a number 2 or a number 3 listing that says the best vitamin C supplements of 2024 that you need to buy right now. And it was an article that would just have an introduction and then list all of these different supplements that would then link with an affiliate link going over to the main website. It seems like about a year, for the past 2-3 years, Google has been polluted with those kinds of sponsored listicles. But one thing that was interesting with these core updates over the course of the summer that was done was a lot of those listicles are actually replaced with the same resourceful content coming from that same source. So the authority of the site didn't necessarily change, but the content that Google was choosing to show did, because Google, for a lot of those queries, wants to show more informational content, not necessarily informational content that's then disguised with that transactional bridge. So that's been a major update on that side too, and it's something that's been refreshing to see, at least from a user perspective in Google.
True.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and lastly, let's discuss some exciting news.
Yes.
As per reported by Niem Lab and NewsDash, publishers seeing significant increase in traffic from the Google Discover, right?
Yes. Actually, we're seeing some of this on our side. So would you mind going over what we can share from a first-party perspective of what we're seeing happen at SEJ with Google Discover?
We see about like a 40% growth of Google Discover traffic year over year.
Nice.
And yeah, and I'm kind of I can boldly confirm that this study is accurate.
Nice. So, do you think that increase in Google Discover has anything to do with a lot of publishers have been losing their organic listings in Google, right? So, do you think that between AI overviews and changes in the organic side, that this is a way for Google to work with publishers and compensate them a little bit to send them more traffic from the Discover component of Google and not necessarily typical organic search?
Yes, I totally can see that because like publishers are, let's admit, like a bottom bread of Google, right? If there are no publishers, there's no content to serve to users, and quality of search is gonna degrade, and it's gonna hurt Google business at its core, right? And regarding Google Discover, a lot less known about how that beast is working, right? And regarding optimizing for Google Discover, what we know so far from, for example, our data, it seems to favor, first of all, the up-to-date content,
Right.
engaging content, and written by really authoritative and industry like niche experts in that field, right?
So I'm not sure if we're supposed to share this or not, but what we've seen is that when we have, for some of the articles that we share out there in our SEJ Today emails, our email newsletters that are getting more clicks from third parties, right? That aren't necessarily they're getting traffic. In addition to being a fresh new article that we're letting Google index, we're also utilizing all of our other channels, including social media, email, things like that, to drive more traffic and interest around those articles. And what we've seen is that when we have more sends, more clicks, more traffic, right? Not coming from Google, coming from email, coming from newsletters, coming from sharing, notifications, whatever it may be, we're actually seeing those same articles increase from a visibility and traffic standpoint on Google Discover. You think there's a connection there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a correlation, first of all, like it's not causation. It's important to make a note to our readers. Whenever we send like an message today, with the first article featured in the message today first, right, which gets the most traffic. What we notice in the Google Discover is spikes to that article traffic specifically, right? And it's kind of I think aligns with observations out there which were made by a number of SEO industry experts like John Shihata or Lily Ray, right? That Google Discover is really assessing how engaging your content, how it is good, and depending on that, it's increasing the visibility. And what happens when we send an email? A lot of people like open and read an article, share across the board, like send to their friends, and it's kind of sending a signal to Google Discover that there is like an engaging and like a hot stuff going on, right? And
Right.
it has a like instant effect of increasing traffic for that article. And other than that, what we would recommend from our experience, look at your Google Discover data. See what articles drive higher CTR, meaning like more interest from the user side, and publish even consider publishing more follow-up stories regarding that story, right? because when there is a news, there is development regarding that news. If it performs well in the Discover and you publish a follow-up story, there is a high chance that the second story may perform as good as the first one.
So if we publish a piece of content and we see that it's starting to take off on Google Discover, and we tweak the open graph title, how long does it typically take for Google Discover to pick up that change?
I think it depends on the website, but typically for us it takes maybe an hour or less.
Got you. And just as a refresher for our audience, how can someone check their Google Discover data?
Just log into your Google Search Console. You should see a Discover as a separate tab on the left side. And as an additional note, you may not have a Google Discover traffic. It's not like you have a blog, you are necessarily going to get a Google Discover traffic. If you don't have a Google Discover traffic, that the tab in your Search Console, what you need to do is focus on your content quality, regularly publish high quality content by experts, and most importantly, remember there are no kind of rules that you can follow and become eligible for Google Discover. It happens itself as soon as Google sees any a higher value in content you are producing, right? So keep up producing high quality content, increase your brand recognition, of course, and always follow Google guidelines on publishing content.
So with this week's news, we've been talking a lot about AI overviews, right? About Google Discover, some other things that are happening with the site reputation abuse update. But one thing we're also seeing is that things really haven't settled when it comes to normal organic listings, to the point that we're seeing a lot of volatility in the rankings still after the August core update was over. Do you think that necessarily means that Google's making some adjustments to their algorithm after that core update?
Yes, definitely. There were a number of reports in Twitter that people saw recovery once August core update was launched, but very recently they observed that all of the wins they have has gone. And, it speaks about a movement and changes they perform. And in that regard, please always remember to avoid overhauling your entire website as you see rankings drop, traffic drop. And usually it's not useful. What you need to do, and that is what also Google recommends, always analyze what was changed, right? And use tools like Google Analytics, Search Console, see what pages, what keywords have declined and has been affected. You can use tools like Looker Studio to blend data from Google Analytics and Search Console and see how the declined pages perform in terms of user engagement on the page.
Yeah.
And anything else you would recommend to those who lost traffic due to these high volatilities?
So you're saying, and I think Danny Sullivan kind of backed this up, is that if you're seeing a drop or changes because of these updates, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to overhaul your entire site, right? It just really means that you have to dig into the data, try to understand why. It could be a handful of pages. It could be something where, hey, Google's updated their algorithm, but then they're going to do another adjustment and another adjustment. So you may have dropped, and then that wasn't something that was intended in that algorithm update. They make a fix, and then you rise again. But at the same time, making sure that if for any reason that traffic drop did happen, due to maybe content being outdated, people not necessarily engaging, addressing that first before panicking and changing everything on your website. Correct?
Yeah, sure. And for those who lost the traffic, it's another reminder that you should diversify your traffic. You should not only be depending on the Google search traffic, and consider investing in email marketing to decrease your reliance on Google search traffic.
Excellent. Excellent. So, yeah, it's been a really busy week, and this being our inaugural show, is there anything else you think that we should go over today from a big picture perspective of what's happening with Google, AI, and algorithmic changes?
No, I think we have wrapped up everything we had, and I have a note to our readers to stay up to date on the recent search updates. Make sure to subscribe to our Search Engine Journal's daily newsletter and stay informed.
Yeah, speaking of email, make sure to subscribe, because it's kind of funny given the discover component and everything else. And then also if you are, I see this a lot with e-commerce oriented companies. Sometimes their emails are always sell, 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 but then at the same time they're investing in content. So your email list may not always want to buy, but they may want to learn. So the ability to share that content that you're investing in from a content strategy perspective with your list as well, not only gets more eyeballs onto your site, but then you can nurture for a future sale. So always make sure that if you're investing in content, you're investing in content to help those people in the funnel, to help educate on your products, to help educate on the need for your products. Make sure you're always marketing that. And oftentimes email is overlooked. And given the changes that we're seeing in Discover and some other aspects with Google, there is a theory that's been around for a long time that when someone does open up a page in Google Chrome and interacts with that page, or thousands of people may do, that can help with your overall rankings, whether it's in Discover or also possibly in the typical organics. So what better targeted users to have on your website, interacting with your website, than your email list, right?
For sure, and it's like a direct connection with your audience. No one can intervene and disturb your connection with your audience, right? Remember, like when Facebook kind of killed the reach, everyone who had built like Facebook pages with millions of likes and followers saw a significant drop in reach, and it basically become like a useless to post anything on the Facebook, right? You kind of invested in building and growing Facebook, not your audience. But in that regard, email list is a direct connection with your audience, and you will be always benefiting in investing into an email list.
Yeah, email lists, apps, any other way that you can ping your audience and get that direct connection with them instead of waiting for them to search and find you is definitely an asset. So thanks, Vahan, for jumping on the weekly SEO Rewind with me today, our inaugural weekly SEO Rewind. What do you think so far?
That's great. Thank you, Loren.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. See everyone next week, and we'll be putting together the list of everything that we reviewed today in the email. So thanks.
Bye.